It has been a process together with them for the past year doing the distribution strategy for Austria tourism in Denmark. And I worked with several channels in the history. It's been search and it's been social, and they've done quite a lot of display banner campaigns as well. So, but they saw that it was pretty crowded out there, the prices has gone up, and they didn't really get the traction that they wanted, because they saw that if they want to have Austria seen as a summer destination, which was the objective for this campaign, they understood that they need to not shout it in their face. They need to be more, you know, telling a story. Why should you come to Austria in the summer when you can go to Italy? No, but so they set up this content strategy for them, and they also saw that then they need to do some modifications with the different channels, the paid channels that they were using. And the case that we presented here today was about when we compare display, search, and then content recommendations or native recommendations. And it proved very well. So we saw that incredibly high engagement, very high time spent on site, and the time spent was actually higher than search, which is not very common, to be honest, but it proved that the content was that good, and it worked placing content within content. They already from day one understood that they needed to do changes to their media mix, and that's why we came in. And then as we first did the first campaigns, I don't know, maybe 10 different creative materials, I think it was 10 articles or something. And then they understood that there was quite some power here, so they shifted a lot of the budgets, and that was display that got moved away, and then they put that over to us. And the search budgets, they're also decreasing now, and we take more of those budgets. So, but the media mix was entirely digital, and on top of that, they have newsletters that they push, and they buy some audience there, and then they have social with their own community for their Facebook, where they also acquire traffic, if you would count that into the media mix, which I think you should. So. And if you work with content marketing and native, it's super important that you put in a lot of efforts into that media mix, or the distribution strategy, if you want to call it that. So you look into several different platforms, the more the merrier, to be honest, and then you compare it. Where do you get most bang for the buck? And there are some metrics that I could recommend. Time spent, I would say, is the preferred one for content. It could, of course, also be conversions for different types of activities. But it depends what type of content you have in your building and what your goal is for that. But many channels, and of course content recommendations into that one. If you compare display, search and native recommendations, I would say that for search, there is an intent. I mean, if you can think it, you can type it. And of course, that's very, very powerful. So that's the best strength for it. On the downside is that it can be very, very expensive, especially in a crowded segment like travel. Same thing with banking, and there are some that's pretty expensive. If you take for display, it's a lot about reminding the audience. It's cheap effect. It's cheap effect, just like TV is cheap reach, more or less. So I would say it has a reminding effect. You can get up and running really, really fast with it, not necessarily driving conversions or clicks, but actually using out of a brand perspective, and that is fine. On the downside is that you have ad block and that you have so many things. It's hard to communicate in a display banner. And then we have native recommendations, content recommendations. I would say the most important thing is that it is in an editorial context. You have something in an editorial context. That means that you are consuming content. And while you're in that content consumption mode, then it's very easy to do, after you have consumed the content, it's like, okay, now what? What's next? And if you have more editorial recommendations to that, then it's easy to get them hooked, and especially if it's relevant, what you place in front of them. So being in an editorial environment is the plus side. On the minus side, I would say that it depends what type of content you have. If you have very niche content, business to business, it might be a bit hard to find the audience because because there are, even if you have an article about robots and then you have a campaign about robots, industrial robots for industries, I mean, you know, the reach is quite limited, quite limited. Use many channels, compare the different channels, and don't forget about the content recommendations if you work with content marketing and native advertising. It's a kick-ass for that, to be honest.